Hey, what's up, Math 1? This is Mr. Bainey, and the lesson is 9.1 Measures of Center and Spread. The essential question is, how can you describe and compare data sets? So in Module 8, we've dealt with categorical data, and in Module 10, we've done previously, we've handled two variable data. So we're looking at two things so that we can plot it on a coordinate plane. In Module 9, we're going to be looking at one variable data where we will be able to calculate certain statistics and then maybe compare it to other data sets. So we're going to skip ahead. And on the second page, you'll see a definition of mean and median. These are our measures of center. So if we're measuring the center of the data, there's two measurements, and this should be reviewed. So let's go on to some your turns. Number 4 and 5. If you already know how to do these, you can skip ahead or you can pause it and try it out. You'll see the solutions here in just a sec. So Niall scored on his 6 geography test 70, 74, 72, 71, 73, and 96. So in order to find mean, all we have to do is add up all the numbers together. So 70 plus 74 plus 72 plus 71 plus 73 and plus 96. Just doing this in my own calculator. When we add them all up, oh, and by the way, the mean, we actually use x with a bar over it. I call it x bar for the notation of mean. And it is 456 divided by the total number of data values, which is 6. And as far as showing work or showing your thinking, I would like to see that step there in the middle, because it's going to tell me that you know what it is the sum is, the sum of all 6 are, and also what you're dividing by. Because if you don't write 76 as the answer, or you just make a very, very small mistake, I can at least see some of the thinking that you're making. And the median, we have to put this in order first. So in order will be 70. Let me do a different color here. It's going to be 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, and 96. That's in order. So I have, you'll see I have 3 here and 3 here. We have 2 middle numbers in this case. So our 2 middle numbers are 72 and 73. So here's a way you can show work for your median. If you have 2 middle numbers, you just find the average between both of them. So that would be 72.5. And number 5, we've got 7 games here. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in order first. So we got 84. Ooh, 81 actually goes first. So 81, 84, 89, 90, 93, 94, and 94. Okay, so I can count those, make sure I got 7 of them. These are the golf scores in Raul's last 7 games. So I do have a middle number in here. I got 90 is my middle number because I got 3 on this side, 3 on this side. So I know that my median is 90. And my mean, again, I'm going to use my calculator here. Give me a sec. And when I add them together, I get a total of 625. I'm going to divide that by 7. And I do end up with a decimal. Looks like it goes on for a while, so I'm going to round it. And in these directions up at the top, it doesn't tell us how they want us to round it, so it's safe to either round it to the nearest 10th or the nearest 100th. Actually, let me do the nearest 100th. It'll be 89.29 because it's 285. Okay, and there you have it. That's how we find measures of center. Now, one thing that you can start thinking about is if 76, I'm looking at number 4, 76 is the measure of center of the data, and 72.5 is another measure of center. Now, how come they're different if we call them both the center? And will they always be this close to each other? When will they be the same? When will they be far apart? What kind of makes it do that? So that's some questions to think about, because in some cases the mean is going to be a better measure of center, or the median will also be a better measure. Okay, and you can also see at number 5 that both measures of center, the median and the mean, are both very, very close to each other. So they can be close to each other, or they can be a little further apart. Okay, after measures of center, we're going to deal with measures of spread. So we have quite a bit of vocab words here. You'll see range is something that should be reviewed. It's just the biggest value minus the smallest value. Then we have quartiles. Quartiles are going to divide our list of numbers into 4 parts. And where they split up, we're going to call those quartile 1, quartile 2, and quartile 3, which sounds kind of confusing because there should be 4 of them, right? But the quartiles are going to kind of mark where the 4 parts split up. We use the Q1 and Q3 to help us calculate the IQR. Let's go ahead and go on to an example where we find all of these measures of spread. Okay, measure of spread is how far apart are these numbers, how spread out are they? So it wants us in the your turn 7 and 8 to find the median, range, and IQR, interquartile range, of this data set. So remember, interquartile range, we call that IQR. So I need to put this in order. So we got 21, 24, 26, 26, 28, and 31. Okay, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll find the median. Here is 3 numbers and 3 numbers here. I do have 2 middle numbers, so my median is, it's the average of 26 and 26, which, I am still going to show this thinking of how we find it, but it's simple. We're still going to get 26 there. Now the range is remember, our biggest number minus our smallest number. So our biggest number is 31 minus our smallest number, which is 21, and we get 10. And finally, we have, if the median, we call that Q2, right? Q2 is 26 there. We now find, okay, we got 3 numbers on this side, so we want to find the median of the lower half. And then we want to find the median of the upper half. So that means the median of the left 3 numbers is my Q1, which is 24. And the median of the upper half is we call that Q3, which is 28. And that leads us to our IQR of Q3 minus Q1, that's 28 minus 24, which is 4. Okay, here's number 8. We've got 11 data points this time. So I'm going to work on this, and if you'd like to pause it, go right ahead. The solution is going to pop up here in a few seconds. And here are your data values in order. The different thing about this one compared to number 7 is that we do have a middle number that counts as our Q2, or our median. And we do not include the 73 in the lower or the upper half. So we got 5 numbers on the left, 5 numbers on the right. So on the left, I do have a middle number there. That's my Q1, which is 71. And on the right, there's my middle number there, 75. That's our Q3. So with all of that, let's go ahead and get our median, our range, and the IQR. So the median is one of our middle numbers, and that is 73. Our range is biggest number minus smallest number, which is, looks like 11. and IQR is Q3 minus Q1, which is 4. Okay. Now the IQR, this one's a little bit harder to understand compared to the others. Remember, median is our measure of center. The range is just what's the smallest and the biggest value, how many, I guess, different values could be in between. The IQR measures how spread out is the middle 50%, right? So this is kind of like, you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's about 6 or 7 here in the middle out of 11 data points. So about 6 in the middle means that that's about half of them. So we're looking at how spread out is in the middle, and then the range, remember, has how spread out the whole thing is. Okay, so sometimes that can give us some different information, especially when we start comparing them. Okay, and the last calculation we're going to make in our one variable data is standard deviation, and it is a measure of spread. They didn't include it with range and IQR because standard deviation is a pretty lengthy process. So I am going to write down a list of steps. You see the formula is actually right here. This is the formula for standard deviation, and it's looks pretty intimidating. So I'm going to pause this for a second, write down all the steps, and you can pause it as well when you see it. And here are the list of the steps I'm going to briefly go over. So first, you're going to find the mean. We call that x bar. So where you see x bar in this formula is the mean. Then you're going to calculate the difference. That means you're going to subtract each data value and the mean. So where you see right here is we're taking x1 minus the mean. So x1 is just the first data value. Subtract the mean. Okay, second data value minus the mean. Then another data value minus the mean. So it depends on how many there are. As you can see, this could take a while if you have a bunch of data values. Step number 3 is you're going to square each one. So you see it right here. After you subtract, you're going to square it. So after you subtract this, you're going to square it, and so on. Step number 4 is you add them all together. So you see the plus signs in between each of these groups in the top. Then you're going to, after you add them all, that's finding the sum, you're going to divide by n, which represents the number of data values. It's almost like finding the average. Okay, since we squared it, at the end, we're going to take the square root, and that's why you see that whole big square root right there. Okay, so let's try this out. There is an example of it below if you want to take a look at that, but we've got 2 that we're going to go through. On number 10, they've given us a nice little table here to work with. Now, you don't have to use a table, but if you would like an organized way, this is a pretty a nice way to organize all of the work. So if I have the data values 21, 24, 26, 26, 28, and 31, I'm going to first find the mean. So working on that right now in my calculator. So I've got 6 numbers there, and when I add them all, I get 156. I'm going to divide that by 6. Looks like there's 6 of them. So I do get 26. I get a nice number. If we don't get a nice number as the mean, that means when we subtract everything minus the mean, we're going to get some decimals, and it could get pretty ugly. So we're fortunate here. We get 26. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 21. That's my first data value minus the mean. 24 minus the mean. 26 minus the mean. 26 minus the mean, and you get the point. I do this to every single one. So I'm going to I'm going to work these out. After that, when I get my differences here, I'm going to square each of those and get them here. Okay, so what's going to pop up here in a few seconds. And here is the table all filled out. You can see that I do end up with some negatives and some positives when I subtract, but this actually doesn't matter because when I square it, like -5 times -5 gives me a positive anyway. Same thing here, I get a positive as well. So here's when I square everything that's in the second column, Then I'm going to find the sum of all of those. So 25 plus 4 plus 0 plus 0 plus 4 plus 25 is going to give us 58. And then the standard deviation. Standard deviation actually uses like this Greek symbol. I believe it's omega, something like this. This is standard deviation. Or you can write SD, I don't mind, since we're not going to be too worried about notation here. And it is the square root of that sum. And when I take the square root of the sum of 58, I'm going to get about 7.615 or 7.62. Now this is a number that's not going to make much sense to you right now, but just get used to the process of how to find this number, and then in about a lesson or two, where it's gonna start to be a little more meaningful when we compare sets with each other. Okay, I'm gonna put the solution to number 11 up in a few seconds, so go ahead and pause it right now if you'd like. I have the mean here, 73 on the left side for number 11, and I started to create a table slightly different from the one from number 10. This one's going horizontally this time. So I have in the first row here all of my data values. We call those X, okay, because you can see X up here. Then I'm going to take X, each of the X's minus the mean. So that's X minus X bar. So I've subtracted them already and I get this. And then I'm going to square each of those. Okay, and they're all going to turn out positive, which is easy to deal with. Now, one of the other nice things about this is I don't have to put this data in order. That's always a nice thing. So here are all of my numbers. And let's go ahead and add them all together. So got 40, 50, 59, 64, 84 it looks like. Let's double check to make sure here. I do get 84, so my standard deviation, or I'll put here, SD, is the sum of it underneath the square root. So let's take the square root of 84, and I get about 9.165, or about 9.17. Okay, and that's going to do it for this lesson. Remember that we are practicing in this lesson how to find measures of center and measures of spread, all different types of calculations. Don't worry, you can start to think about it, but don't worry too much about what it means right now. We'll get to that soon. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.